Hey, Jared here with Weekend Growth. Are you like me and you hate going back and updating old articles? It just seems to be the thing that falls to the bottom of your list every single day. You know, like me, that updating articles, updating content is super important for maintaining your rankings, but it just is not fun. It's hard and it takes a lot of time and effort. Today, I wanted to go into the topic of how to update content on your website fast. I think this is an important topic. A lot of site owners, kind of like myself, don't get around to updating content because it takes so doggone long. Don't get me wrong, this is not a video to try and tell you to take shortcuts on content updating. For sites that generate a lot of traffic, a lot of revenue, you need to be paying attention to this all the time. You need to have a constant cadence of updating content. You got to do the content updates right. But we all have only so much time in the day, and something is better than nothing sometimes. So if you've been neglecting your content updating for quite a while, maybe a few of these fast content update ideas will help you. Here are my 9 content updating tips that are lightning fast. But before we get into all the tips, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I will be publishing more content just like this. And when you hit the subscribe button, when you're subscribed to the channel, you're the first to find out. If you like the video, please let me know. Add a comment below if you have a question. All right, let's dive in. Number 1, shorten those doggone paragraphs up. Traditional writing and blog style writing are very different. University educated writers will pretty much always spit out content that is too long for the web. Think about it. Most readers, they're viewing your content on their phone. Now, phone screens have gotten a lot bigger in the last couple of years, but there still aren't that many words that can fit on the screen at any one given time. And walls of text or paragraphs that extend on and on and on past the field of view, they have been shown to decrease readability. So go through your articles, shorten those paragraphs up. Hopefully you can just hit the carriage return button on some of them and they don't need a lot of rearranging. I personally opt for no more than 3 sentences per paragraph, but honestly, I'm not afraid of 1 and 2 sentence paragraphs. It skyrockets readability. A couple great tools to help you out with this. Hemingway is an app. I believe it's free. And Grammarly has both a free and a paid version. Take a look at those tools if you need some help to shorten things up. Number 2, speaking of short, use shorter sentences. This goes hand in hand with number 1, with having shorter paragraphs. It's all about comprehension, and shorter sentences are just plain easier for people to understand. Check out this study that I referenced from the American Press Institute. It says when the average sentence length is 14 words, readers understand more than 90% of what they're reading. Expand that to 43 words and comprehension drops to less than 10%. 90%, 10%. That's just comprehension though. People don't even get to comprehension if they skip over, or worse, they bounce off the page. And that's what happens when you have big university style paragraphs. So shorten those sentences up and make them far easier to digest and to read. Honestly, shortening sentences and shortening paragraphs, they're a powerful 1-2 punch. This is the first thing that I did on a site I purchased a few years ago, which I provided a link for if you want to learn more about that site. I had an almost immediate impact. Side note, I went on to sell that site for 5 figures, which was a 5x growth from when we bought it. Number 3, go back and update those titles for a better click-through rate. So often, and me at the top of this list, by the way, we are guilty of over SEOing a title. Is that a term? Well, I just made it one. In other words, we focus on maximizing the keywords in the title, but we slack a bit on piquing interest and intrigue. Sounds a bit like a robot wrote it, or ChatGPT maybe, without any good prompt, right? What follows is so very predictable. Once the article ranks, its keyword-rich but semi-boring title doesn't attract attention in the SERPs. Sends a poor signal to Google. Instead, try flipping that situation on its head. Change those titles to something people are dying to click on. I referenced ChatGPT, but I'm being serious, actually. This is a perfect situation to use ChatGPT. Let's say your keyword is how to install pavers on top of concrete. And so you make your title, how to install pavers on top of concrete. I know, I bet you never saw that coming, right? Here's my conversation on ChatGPT. You can try something similar. I said to ChatGPT, I'm writing an article on how to install pavers on top of concrete. Create 5 titles for my blog post that are incredibly captivating and create a high interest in the reader to click through and read. Look what ChatGPT spit back out. A little long. So I said, make these 70 characters or shorter. Look what I got. Granted, somewhere in between The keyword title that we referenced earlier, the boring one, and the keyword title that ChatGPT came up with, somewhere between is probably the best, at least in this case. And your examples will vary as you do it, but use ChatGPT to help you get better, more clickable titles, and then blend that with something that's also keyword rich. Number 4, add a chart. Hey, charts are really easy to make in WordPress and Gutenberg these days, so it's pretty easy to lean into this technique. Charts take complicated info and data, and they break it up into clear visuals that allow readers to make sense of it. By the way, Google loves charts. Google will feature charts and feature snippets and other areas of search. So take a step back and think about your article from a high level. That's what I find works the best. What are the most important questions that a reader needs to answer from this query? Find a way to make a chart that answers one or two of those. If you can get all the answers into one chart, even better. But if you can't, break charts up and answer one question with a chart and then answer another question down the page with a chart. So, for example, if a reader is trying to pick between several wheelbarrows for their yard, create a chart that clearly delineates who each wheelbarrow is best suited for, and then have some data to back it up. Again, like I said earlier, provide ChatGPT your content. It can do a lot of this for you. Number 5, don't just stop at adding a chart, add bullet points. People love bullet points. Why? Because most people hate reading, or they're lazy, or maybe they just don't have time. But either way, bullet points give people what they want as fast as possible. Speaking about readability, it gives them the information in about as easy of a digestible fashion as possible. Because it helps readability, it's a great way to update your content, right? I find that so many things that writers say can honestly be summarized in bullet points. Same goes for you if you're the one writing. By the way, I'm grouping bullet points together with numbered lists, so both are good. Just find the right one for each situation. So, okay, for example, let's take a look at this overview on choosing a pop-up tent. I have it on the screen in front of you. I'll read it. When choosing a pop-up tent, consider size, weight, materials, weather resistance, ventilation, ease of setup and takedown, stability, packed size, price, and additional features. Opt for tents with a suitable capacity, lightweight design, durable materials, and a good waterproofing. Ensure proper ventilation, straightforward setup, reliable anchoring, and compact pack size. Compare options within your budget and consider extra features like interior storage or lighting. By researching and comparing tents based on these factors, you'll find one that meets your needs for a comfortable camping experience. Blah, 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 blah. Boring. No one's going to read that, right? But that's some important information that you've got to try to get across to the reader. Here's pretty much the exact same text with bullet points now instead. I'm not going to read it again because it would be just as boring, but you can see that it's a lot more approachable now. It actually makes sense, and it's something that I would actually want to read, although it's still a little boring, but that's a different problem. Number 6, take unique images. If you open up an article of yours that needs updating, sometimes it is a topic that is really easy to get your phone out and add a few unique images to. Now, I know I talk a lot about unique images on here, but part of the reason is because it's so easy to do and the return is so high. It's got a high ROI. Taking pictures of certain things or certain concepts for your content is really easy, especially if you know a couple of techniques and tricks, and the return on investment is very high for the time you put in. So for example, we took on a new client a little while ago in the pest niche. Yep, bug control. A lot of the articles we needed to update for them were talking about different types of outdoor surfaces and whether you could spray a pest control on it. Well, it was pretty easy. I looked over the list and I noted a few surfaces that I had at my house: concrete, pavers, grass, mulch, brick. Honestly, 5 minutes later, I had 2 to 3 images for each of these articles. Simple. ROI, very high. Don't overcomplicate it. Yes, the pictures need to be good enough, but they don't have to be works of art. We're not asking you to turn into Ansel Adams here. Good enough is plenty good enough. All right, we're hitting the home stretch. Number 7, embed a video. More and more, Google loves video. Makes sense, they own YouTube. But it also makes sense because people love video. So YouTube has been growing like crazy, especially since 2019, 2020, certainly with the pandemic. And Google has started to feature video a lot more in the SERPs. But it also makes for a great way to update your content. Best case scenario is to make a topically relevant video for your article. That's right, you make a video, put it on YouTube, and then embed that in your article. That's best case. But a close second is to make a video that works for a whole topical cluster, and then you can use it across a number of different articles. If not, if you really don't want to get out of camera and really don't want to get in front of the camera and make a video, find a good niche relevant video on YouTube and then embed it in your content. You're still at least providing a video for people to engage with. Number 8, create a captivating intro. I get it, intros are so boring. But the problem is that when you make it boring, you will lose your readers, and then you lose their traffic, their revenue, and their purchases. Oftentimes people make the mistake of being overly summarizing in intros. That's what the conclusion is for. The intro should build intrigue. It should build curiosity. It should set the stage for what they're going to learn. No one does this better than a friend of mine, Jamie IF. I interviewed him on the Niche Pursuits podcast a while back, and he calls his approach the spear approach. I included a link. You can go read up on it. But the bottom line is make sure that your intros are captivating. One thing I do is I write the intro after I'm done with the article, or I will often rewrite an intro for an article that a writer provided after I read the article that they wrote. It's a lot easier to write an intro after you've seen what the content is because you can really speak to it. Try that out maybe. Number 9, last but certainly not least, perhaps the easiest thing of all, add 2 to 4 FAQs. Frequently asked questions, also called FAQs. They're very simple to add and they're great for updating content. Here's my super quick process for adding these. Google your article's main keyword, find the people also ask section of the SERP, take the first 3 relevant questions. Now, relevant is the keyword here because there's going to be lots of irrelevant ones. Find the first 3 that are relevant and then answer these at the bottom of your blog post. Make sure you mark them up with FAQ snippet. Rank Math makes this super easy to do. They're my go-to. Finally, check that the rich results test shows that your FAQ snippet, that your FAQ schema is being recognized. I always use the rich results one because that's the one that Google uses. So again, adding FAQs is a great way to update content, and it's a great way to give Google a FAQ snippet that they love. All right, that's a wrap. My 9 super fast ways to update articles. Hey, I get it. The best case scenario is that you do a full article update, which involves re-researching the topic again in depth, updating all of the content, adding new topics of interest, etc., etc. That's the best case scenario. But if you're like me, I find myself oftentimes putting off making article updates because of the amount of work that is involved, and that is not good. Quick additions to old articles can have a good impact, especially if you haven't updated things in a while. If you're short on time, maybe a quick update is better in the short run than a full large-scale update. I hope these 9 ideas help you to get some of those content updates that you need to make. Maybe this is just the turning point that you and your website need.